I think we're going through. Yep, we're here. We're live.
Hey,
We've made it. Shout out to everybody. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Sorry about that. StreamYard was acting a little wonky, but we appreciate you guys for tuning in. I am Culture Shock. I could not be here alone. I got my guy Landon with me. Landon, how are we doing tonight? Microphone.
there we go. There we go. I was gonna say I'm doing really good. The Twitter broadcast is not working though, so I just checked on that. It says broadcast has ended, so we're not having anybody from Twitter joining us at the moment, unless there's a new thread here. Nope, nope. There we go. We're back up and going. So it looks like we do have everything working finally. Goodness. Yeah, doing great. Other than that little weird thing that was going on there with the stream,
They won't stop us.
can't keep us
We
down.
They can't keep us down, man. We gonna drop this content for you guys today. Today we're gonna be ranking where does the Indianapolis Colts rank in the AFC South. This is an interesting topic. The schedule just dropped. I know you guys are excited. Let us know your record predictions in the comment section. This is gonna be an exciting season. It's fun, clean slate. We are 0-0. Everybody's ready to go. I'm excited. Landon, I know you're excited, right?
Of course, of course. Now we're hitting the point to where its schedule's out. We can start looking forward to games, planning trips, you know, to go visit and watch some games, all that kind of fun stuff. So, yeah, I'm super hyped.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Matter of fact, let's take a look at that schedule.
That's
So this schedule is going to be very interesting. The bottom is cut off, but it's the Vikings and the Jaguars at the bottom of that screen. But this schedule, it's not that bad. I would say it's an interesting one. It's definitely winnable. Um, from the looks
that's
of it,
really
it's a late
good.
bye week. It's very good. It's a mixed breed. It's not too tough, not too weak. It's pretty much a good mixture of a good balance. But that's just on paper as of right now, looking into it because things could change with variations going into the season. Some teams can be super good, some teams can be super bad. But as we look at it right now today, this is a good look. Landon, what games are you looking forward to so far that you see on the schedule?
Well, I mean, personally, just me. I guess if you've listened to us for a while now, you know my second favorite team, my family's favorite team, is the Green Bay Packers. So of course, having the Colts go up against the Green Bay Packers is going to be a fun event in our family. A lot of trash talk. Who knows? We might end up going to it. You never know. We might just make a trip up to Lambeau. So that one I'm actually really excited for. Um, and then you know the the middle of the season there is really good. Weeks 8, all the way through 12 is stacked with some really, really good games there with Houston, Minnesota, Buffalo, the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, which is going to be Sunday Night Football in prime time. Then Detroit, who, as we saw last year, made a deep run into the playoffs as well. So that's all of those games should be really fun to watch. Really good matchups. So I'm any one of those I'm definitely looking forward to.
I like that. I like that. I'm looking forward to definitely week one. Everybody is questionable when it comes to week one because we know the slump. But look, this game is a little different for me because we've seen, if you guys watch In the Churches podcast, we've seen Zaire and CJ Stroud comments. We've seen Stroud comments talk about the Colts. We've seen Zaire back up the Colts. So all of that energy is being bestowed in week one. And what better way to break the streak than against that team, the Houston Texans? Now, of course, Zaire, he said a few things about Stroud and Houston, and I'm looking forward to this matchup. So this game is going to be definitely exciting, and it's at home, so I'm looking forward to this. That's definitely my game to go to. I would have preferred Jacksonville, but that's just me being biased. It is what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. I know a lot of people don't want that, but hey, I would like to to have the ultimate test at the beginning of the season, especially against a team you always lose to. So I'm looking forward to that. But like I said, it's a clean slate. It's Stroud versus Richardson. Week one, we know how good Richardson was before he got injured last year. So going up against this hot fire offense with a new wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, this is going to be electric. I'm looking forward to this game. I just know it's going to be exciting. But I'm looking forward to that one. Another game I'm looking forward to watching is definitely going to be Detroit. I feel like Detroit, especially what they did last year, they just paid golf all this money. I know they're going to be cooking up something good, and it's Aiden Hutchinson, man. Aiden Hutchinson and Latu. It's going to be edge versus edge rush. It's going to be exciting for me to watch because Aiden Hutchinson was a dog last year. I mean, he's been a dog since he came in the league, but him going up against us, and then you got Richardson at quarterback. It's just gonna feel like a college type atmosphere. That defense versus this offense is just gonna be like it's gonna be athleticism all over the field, man. And the last game is the Dolphins versus the Colts. Now we know how good the Dolphins can be with all that speed, and then they just added Odell if he is healthy. That's going to be an ultimate test for our defense. And you know how it feel. I know how you feel about our defense when it comes to the scheme, and what ultimate test to put it up against all that speed on the opposite side. So it's just it's going to be a battle worthy test. Even Green Bay. Green Bay is a good team. They got a nice offense too. Jordan Love's pretty good, and it's still early. And I feel like it's better to play them early than late when it's down towards when it gets to that November, December weather in Green Bay. Woof. I would
Yeah.
have taken Green Bay by a landslide. But it's early, so the sun's still gonna be out. So I'm looking forward to that matchup as well. Uh if you wanted to do an early record prediction, what would it be? Just say how many wins. How many wins? Just off the flip.
All right. So I actually went through this. I didn't post anything about it because
I know, I
schedule
know.
release and all that. And I normally don't like doing these, but I was going through it yesterday, sitting down. It's like, man, like there's a case to be made. Like this team, I mean, this is a very favorable schedule, especially when you get to like the back part of the schedule, like from New England on. Those are all like extremely winnable games. So I mean, you have a really good shot to pad that record at the end of the season. So it's really important to get off to a strong start and kind of weather the meat and potatoes of the schedule there in the middle because we know Houston won the division, beat us last year to win the division, good team. Minnesota, we don't really know with their quarterback situation right now. But it's still a pretty talented roster. Of course, the wide receivers there are really good. Buffalo with Josh Allen, the Jets with Aaron Rodgers if he's healthy, and Detroit. As stacked as that team is with Jared Goff leading the way, those are going to be tough games, man. So I kind of sat down yesterday and I was like, okay, just me being realistic. Um, where can I see this team landing? And I think for me, I think I had a record prediction, and this is me being like realistic as well. Um, I had them at 11 wins.
Landon almost cried. Because you
I,
know me with the when it comes to those win percentages and those numbers, I'm always high. To hear you say
this,
11, I almost gave you a hug through the
yeah, and
screen.
like so, this is like taking into account, Richardson staying healthy for the entire season, not missing any games, and taking that leap from his rookie year and being more comfortable in the system with the verbiage and the looks and stuff like that. If that happens, I do think this team is really and they were close last year. To hitting that double
We was
digit
at 9,
wins.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, they won 9, and a few of those games, like I mean, you could really argue like if Anthony Richardson was playing in those games and was able to, really create with his legs and like show the dynamic ability he has, like they probably could have stolen a couple more games. So this, that could have very easily been an 11-win season last year. Um, we know like we got cheated out of Cleveland. And the Houston game, it was they took them to the wire. But I think adding a healthy Anthony Richardson, if he stays healthy, which is like a huge if he stays healthy, I really do think this team is set up. As long as the secondary can hold up to hit double digit wins, I really do think so.
Hey, hey, I concur that. Amen to that. You're preaching. Because, I was going to go on the verge of being something like 10 or 11 wins as well. Of course, I had 10 last year. Of course, we fell a game short. It is what it is. But I was not upset. They almost met my expectations, so I was fine with it. And it was a backup quarterback, guaranteed. So We had controversy at the beginning of the year with the Jonathan Taylor. Everybody was getting injured, but all of that is over. It's in the past. What we wanted last year is what we're going to get this year. We wanted Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson. We're going to get that this year, and we're going to get it in week one. So all of those things is a clean slate. Last year was an evaluation period. This year we could really start to switch gears and start to actually attack like we want to. Go ahead
Yeah,
and dig in that bag, Shane Steichen getting his Duffy, and granted, we was scoring in double digits with a backup quarterback pretty much
yeah,
all year.
yeah. That's the thing with me is like it wasn't even necessarily that the offense was bad, even with Gardner Minshew. I mean, they were putting up 20+ points a game almost, weekly. But the defense, man, like it's whenever you're giving up, I think like were they 28th, 30th in scoring, something like that? I mean, when you're giving up that many points every week, it's hard to win games. So, if the defense can take a step and having, like you said, JT and Richardson back, it is a very favorable schedule if we're looking at, the records from last year. I mean, we all kind of know that's never how the NFL actually works. There's always going to be some teams that were awful last year that just come out of nowhere and they're contenders. I mean, look at Houston last year. I mean, everybody was talking about how awful Houston was. Like, oh, the Houston Texans might have the worst roster in the league. This team is absolutely horrendous. That's going to take a few years to rebuild. And in year one, they won the division. They won a playoff game. It's not like they went to the playoffs and got bounced. They won a playoff game, and you know, really played that second playoff game pretty competitively too. So, I mean, all it takes is 1 year in the NFL. Like the whole excuse thing where it's like, oh well, there's an excuse for this. There's an excuse for this. We're in, this many years in a rebuild and stuff like that, dude. If you make the right moves, it can be 1 year, and it kind of scares me honestly that I'm this high on the team that I actually really do kind of like where they're sitting right now, with the schedule. Because the last time I felt this good was going into 2022. um, and that, I had this team penciled in for double digit wins. I was like, man, like this is going to be the year we make a run, and like the wheels fell off, and it was a disaster. Um, and then last year was kind of the opposite, where I was like, well, like I think this team's going to take a year to gel. They've got a lot of youth, a lot of inexperience. Um, what did I say last year? 5 wins, 4 to 5 wins was probably going to be where we were sitting at, and they doubled that. It's it's I don't know if I just need to stay on the train if they're going to double the wins. If I need to put like, oh, they're going to
I
win
mean, I
eight
mean, it
games.
don't hurt. I mean, if you
Yeah,
want, I mean, you might get tomatoes thrown at you, but I know what you mean. So I
yeah,
understand.
yeah. Just kind of reverse jinx it. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a very favorable schedule. I think this team is really talented, at some really crucial spots now. This is probably the deepest this roster has been, probably going back to like the Peyton Manning era. Even with Andrew Luck, I don't think you had a roster top to bottom that, while you might not have like the
Those
upper
rosters were full.
tier, like star level, household name guys, from top to bottom, outside of maybe a few positions which they can still add to. It's still early, I haven't even hit training camp yet. um I, this is probably the most talented roster this team has had, like just as far as depth as well. I mean, you can look at just about every room, and outside of like the cornerback room and the safety room, you can look at any room and feel pretty decent about, if a guy goes down, this guy has to play a game. Well, outside of quarterback too. I mean, if your quarterback goes down, which I don't know, Joe Flacco balled out last year, but hopefully he never touches the field. But yeah, this is a really talented roster top to bottom, and I think they have a chance to make some noise.
I agree, man. Amen. And I love to hear that because I'm not the only one. So definitely looking forward to see what they can do. They definitely got athleticism all over the field. I know I was spamming you with that Latu film with he was trying to do that swim move on that train and he just like fell over. I was in
I love
tears
it.
watching it because
Love it.
it was like not too much. Really. I mean, he's going like 90 miles per hour.
Yeah, I get what they
Yeah,
were saying. Like, what
yeah,
I don't think Buck was telling him to like. I think he was saying like dial it back, like
right.
don't injure my dude here. Like you go
Hmm.
a little too hard on him.
Right.
Like dial it back a little bit, so
Yeah.
you don't hurt the
I
coach.
loved it though.
But
I loved it, man.
yeah, he's looking ready to roll, man.
Yeah, he's definitely looking ready to roll. Speaking of ready to roll, man, we got this tier list for you guys. You guys can go ahead and get active as well. We're going to be ranking the AFC South: Titans, Texans, Jaguars, and Colts by positions. I did not put special teams in there just due to the new rule. It might look easy for everyone moving forward. So I'm going to give us the benefit of the doubt. And I'm just going to leave that off the list. But I'm going to pull up the list now for you guys. We're going to do we're going to take turns on these lists. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Landing to go first to rank those guys by position. I will give my thoughts and then I will go. So Landon, you have the floor. If you want to give a explanation why you did it, feel free to do so as well.
All right, so I predicted 11 wins. I'm in the good graces of everybody right now, so it's time to ruin that instantly. So, so we're gonna start. I mean, we're gonna start top to bottom. I'm guessing is what we're doing. So we're gonna go quarterback. Right now, I'm gonna say Houston Texans at number one. I think Stroud is that good. Um, just man, what a rookie year from that guy, and I I think he has the tools to keep growing as well. He's just going to be more comfortable whenever you have a guy like that. It's really deadly. Second, and this is where I'm going to lose people, of course. I'm going to go with the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence right now. I think Trevor Lawrence has kind of got a bad rep um, dealing with some of the situations he's dealt with, but we also have to remember last year, if it wasn't for Trevor Lawrence getting hurt, that's right, everybody. Yeah, boo. Let's go. If it wasn't for Trevor Lawrence getting hurt, there's a good chance Jacksonville, I mean, like, there's a very, very good chance Jacksonville's winning that division again for the second year in a row. If you look at the box scores, he's not going to just blow you away. But if you watch some of the plays he makes and some of the throws he makes, man, like the dude is still insanely, insanely talented. And I think, if Jacksonville can get it right and just kind of continue to build around him properly, man, he's tough. He's a really, really good player. Um, Third, I'm gonna have Anthony Richardson. I'm gonna have the Colts right here. Um, just because obviously the talent level, and we did see the flashes of it last year, but you don't know. That's the thing, is like I would love to sit up here and say, and I think Anthony Richardson, out of all of these guys, is the most talented player. Like I think there's a very good chance we're sitting here doing this again next year, and you're putting Richardson right at the top pretty easily. And that's with me saying how good Stroud and Lawrence were. Um, Richardson is that much more talented than just about everybody. Um, but you just don't know. It's too much of an unknown. We'll see. And then fourth, I want to put the Titans with Levis. I thought Levis came out of the gate, pretty strong there in his first game, but really kind of fell off. He still kind of struggled with sensing pressure and the same kind of struggles he had in college still kind of peaked last year. So we'll see if the Titans have done a decent job, building around him this year as well. I think he could also be a guy that takes a big leap this year and starts to look like a franchise caliber quarterback. This is a really good young quarterback room in the AFC South. So,
Best
uh,
QB division in the NFL.
yeah, I mean, from top to bottom, I think it's the most talented for sure. Um, these four guys all have a chance to be actually like legit franchise caliber, Pro Bowl caliber quarterbacks if things fall, the way they're supposed to, which never truly happens. Not everybody gets it right, but the talent level is definitely there. So, like I said, I had Stroud, just from what he showed last year, how good he was as a rookie. If he continues to grow, you're looking at probably one of the top five, top 10 quarterbacks in football. Um, Lawrence, obviously, really good player. He went number one overall for a reason. Richardson, extremely talented, just too much of an unknown. We don't know yet. And then the Titans with Will Levis, we'll see how they end up faring. Um, so let's go to the running back room. This one to me should be pretty easy. The Colts are going to be number one just because they have the best player. You missing the things there. You want me to keep going or wait till you get those things? Okay. So the Colts are going to be number one just because Jonathan Taylor. They might not have like the deepest running back room per se in the division, but now that Derrick Henry is out of there, it's just he to me he's definitely the best running back in the division, and he's one of the best running backs in football when he's healthy. He seems like he's fully healthy. He's ready to rock and roll. Contract situation settled, so if he plays anything like he did towards the end of the season, especially like that Houston game that they had, man, like that dude's gonna be so tough. And then next room, I'll actually put the Titans up here. They did lose Derrick Henry, but I think they have a pretty talented tandem there with oh gosh, what's his name? Well, I know Tony Pollard because they just
Pollard
signed
and then the
him.
other guy, Spears, right?
Yes, Tajay Spears. Um, so I think that room's really talented. They have a chance to make noise, but I don't think that like either one of those guys are like top tier, you know, rushers there. Second, I would probably put the Texans up there, um, just because Joe Mixon is tried and true. You know what you're getting out of him. Damian Pierce runs hard. Relatively deep room there. And then Jacksonville Jaguars, I will put last. Although I like Etienne as a single player above those guys, I just don't know if they have enough behind him to really kind of cancel out those other two. And I don't think he's good as Jonathan Taylor is to kind of like him alone take that that team to like the next level where I think Taylor's just that talented to where it doesn't really matter who you have behind him. He's just that good. So let's get into the wide receiver room now. Wide receiver room, first, it's going to be the Houston Texans. Um, they're, getting Stephon Diggs is big for them, but people really sleep on Nico Collins, man. Like, that dude was incredible last year. And as Colts fans should know, like you should not talk down on Nico Collins, considering he single handedly torched. They had nobody else. They were down to like Nico Collins and like their wide receiver 4 or 5, and he alone single handedly torched Indy and gave that team the division. Um, but then obviously getting Stephon Diggs is a big pickup, and Tank Dell being back healthy as well is a huge thing for them. That he really showed out in his limited snaps. Didn't stay healthy the whole year, so that's going to be something to watch with him. But that's a super super talented trio. Probably one of the better ones in the NFL, if we're being honest. Not just the AFC South, but the entire NFL. Next, I'm actually going to put the Colts up here. I'm going to put the Colts up here in second, which is going to kind of surprise people with Tennessee's tandem. But I think Michael Pittman, to me, is probably the most underrated wide receiver in the entire NFL. He's just it doesn't matter what type of quarterback play you get out of him, he's going to show up every single week and he's going to perform. And he's going to get you over 1,000 yards, around 90 to over 100 catches every season, no matter what. And then you add Josh Downs, what he did last year, he should take the next step. And adding A.D. Mitchell now this year, another supremely, supremely talented guy. If he can put it all together, that's going to be such a dangerous trio. Whenever you have Alec Pierce and Ashton Doolin as your 4 and 5, and then you also have Anthony Gold as well, who's going to surprise a lot of people as a non-special teams guy. Whenever he gets on the field, I think he's really got some juice there at wide receiver. Next, I'm going to put the Tennessee Titans up there. And really, I think the Titans and the Colts are kind of be neck and neck. I think the Titans might have like the better like two guys, but I think the room as a whole still needs some work. Obviously, they just signed Tyler Boyd. It's I think Tyler Boyd's a decent slot receiver. Traylon Burks hasn't really amounted much to anything, so that's kind of why they're a little bit behind. Just because you've got those two guys there, and that Boyd's kind of on the tail end of his career. Hopkins is kind of on the tail end, although he's still really good. Calvin Ridley is good in spots. He's very inconsistent. So it seems like he either blows up and has like two touchdowns, or like he just kind of disappears for a few weeks. So if they can get consistent play out of Ridley, and Traylon Burks can take a step, I think that could also be a really good wide receiver room. And then Jacksonville, I'm going to put fourth. Obviously, losing Calvin Ridley was a blow to them, but I think they rebounded pretty decent with Gabe Davis. Christian Kirk's there. He's still really good. And then drafting Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round. That's a really talented trio for them as well. I don't think any of these rooms are bad. Like, you know, I don't think any of the wide receiver rooms are bad. And I wouldn't have an issue with the way anybody wanted to do it, except for first place. I think Houston is like clearly at the top. And then however you wanted to order the other three, I don't really have an issue with. It's just kind of personal preference. And I just think the Colts wide receiver room um, just offers a little bit more dynamic play than the other guys do. So we'll definitely see how that works. Tight end room. This is tough. This tight end room for all of these teams, it's kind of tough because they none of them really have like that George Kittle, Travis Kelsey, the those kind of guys. So it's just kind of like a hodgepodge of you know mix and match guys who all kind of play specialized roles and do different things. I think the most talent, if you just want to go pure talent, I'd actually put the Colts up there. Um, just because Jelani Woods is the biggest unknown. Um, if Jelani Woods can stay healthy, I think he has a chance to just be an absolute nightmare for teams, especially when you get to the red zone. I mean, I think him and Ogletree as a tandem is like it's just such a deadly mismatch for guys because of not only their size but their athleticism. And Ogletree is a really good blocker as well. And then, of course, we just saw the comment Will Mallory. I really like Will Mallory as well. Kylan Granson, your twin there. I mean, they're a deep room and they're talented, but they just haven't had that guy emerge. Next, um, I would put the Jaguars up there because I think in total, Evan Ingram is probably the guy with the best tenure so far. Um, out of any of the guys in any of these tight end rooms, I think he's had the most success so far. But really, after you get past Evan Ingram, there's just not really a ton there to love. But Evan Ingram is a really good player. Next, I would add the Texans up there because Dalton Schultz, I think, is a really good player. I think they have some decent talent as well there. And Schultz is a good player who you can trust. He's really dependable. Um, and then last, I'd probably put the Titans there. I think that's one of the weaker spots on their roster. I know they're kind of putting a lot of their eggs in the Chiga Conquo basket this year, so we'll see kind of how that plays out. But yeah, I think overall that tight end room is really not that great. So I think top to bottom, the Colts have the most talented room. Jacksonville and Houston at the top, they have the most proven players, but the rest of that room has kind of some question marks. And the Tennessee, I think the entire room has question marks. Um, Offensive line, this should be pretty easy as well. It's the Colts by like a landslide. Um, I would say there might only be just like two or three offensive lines in the entire league that not only are as talented up top but are as deep as the Colts. Especially with this draft, you're kind of projecting a little bit with Bordolini and Gonsalves, but this Blake Freeland could take a step. Obviously, we already know the starting offensive line, how great it is. Bernard Ryman taking that step last year was massive. Braden Smith being healthy. Ryan Kelly, still one of the best centers in football. Quentin Nelson, still one of the best guards in football. So, yeah, it's the offensive line. I think from top to bottom, and then you get into the depth of it as well, is really, really, really good. This is probably outside of the other line, I think is probably the best unit on the entire roster. Um, Next, I'm going to put the Houston Texans up there. Um, the Texans, they're really underrated on their own line, and they people forget they were without like 3 of their starting 5 guys for most of the year last year, and they're gonna get those guys back. The tackle spots, I think, are really good for them, but they're still kind of an unknown. They have talent there, they just haven't been healthy, they haven't put it together, haven't shown it, but the talent is definitely there. I think they could be a really big surprise for that team this year that kinda takes people off guard. It's like, "Man, this Texans offensive line is really good. Where did that come from?" But they've got some dogs in that room, and I think they're going to be a really good unit this year if they can stay healthy. The next unit, um, it's going to be Jacksonville. Um, uh, I think they've got some decent talent. It's not anything that's going to blow you away, but it's not like a liability like it has been in the past. Um, to where they're just getting Trevor Lawrence absolutely murdered back there. I think they're going to take a decent step forward, but nothing major to where it's at the caliber of those first 2 teams there in the AFC South. And then last is the Tennessee Titans. Um, that offensive line was by far the worst offensive line in football last year. They added JC Latham, but they're moving him to left tackle. That's a position he's never played. But they do have Callahan now, which is a massive hire. He's one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coach in football, not just in the NFL. College football, high school football, it doesn't matter. He is one of the best, if not the best, offensive line coach. I expect him to continue to bring those guys, but I still think they're just missing a few guys in the starting lineup, and then not only that, but their depth is horrendous at that offensive line. So if any one of these guys go down, it is like major question marks for them. But they're trending in the right direction, which is good for them, good for Will Levis. Um, Not good for the Colts if the Titans are making smart moves. So we'll see how that plays out, but they're just not there yet. But Callahan was a big hire for him. Defensive line. This one is tough. Like this one's so tough because I think all 4 of these teams have really good defensive line rooms, and I would not have an issue with any any way you want to order these guys. I know I'm gonna sound like a homer here, but I'm gonna take the Colts defensive line. With the addition of Latu, Grover Stewart, one of the best nose tackles in football. We all know DeForest Buckner, one of the best overall, not just defensive linemen, but defensive players. I think, man, Ebukam came in last year, absolutely blew away expectations. You have Dio, who seemed like he took a step forward last year, who's going to continue to grow. Taekwon Lewis, who is like your 5th, 6th guy who can come in and I mean, he outplayed Kwity Paye last year. And then Kwity Paye, of course, first round pick, has all the talent, just hasn't put it together, but he's an elite run stopper. And now you add Latu to that room, man, like this defensive line is crazy deep. And they're super, super talented. Second, I would actually, it's going to surprise some people, but I want to put Jacksonville up there. I know most people would probably put the Texans there, and I think I would have no issue with that argument. But I just think the world of Josh Allen. I really do. Like I've seen that guy single handedly annihilate like opposing offenses, like by himself. And then you add on, the fact that, their former first overall pick, which once again, we're still very thankful they did not take Aiden Hutchinson to pair with Josh Allen. So thank you to the Jaguars for not doing that. But that being said, you know, he took a step forward last year, man. Like he did. He didn't look like the liability he did in his rookie year. And he's really showing a lot of that promise that made him the number one overall pick. So um, we'll continue to watch him. But if he takes another step this year, that's going to be a handful. Like it's tough, tough. And I also think they have some decent depth as well. Their defensive tackle position, I think, is pretty decent. Obviously, they added Eric Armstead to that room, free agency, and other really talented players. So, man, that's Jags defensive line. And then the Texans defensive line, I'm going to pick third here. That's another like tough room. They lost, Greenarn, but whenever you lose him, but you add Daniil Hunter to the room, and then you have Will Anderson going into his second season, I think their edge rushers are probably among the better edge rushers in the league. Their interior is kind of what gives you pause for that entire defensive line room. I'm not saying they're a bad player, but they're just not, you know, upper echelon caliber guys. Um, as far as on paper going into the season, they might be that, but we don't know. Um, but I think their edge rush, I think just those two guys are clearly extremely talented. Probably the best line, the best edge rush in the AFC South, but the entire defensive line room. So remember, this isn't just edge rushers, this is defensive line, which includes the depth, the defensive tackles, like everybody. I don't like their depth there. If one of those guys goes down, and then I think their defensive tackle room still needs a little bit of work. And then Tennessee Titans, it's kind of the exact opposite where we know how much of a dog Jeffrey Simmons is. Um, and I don't think that they're terrible on the edge, but they just have guys like they can't like Harold Landry's out there. He's a really good player, but he just hasn't been able to stay healthy as well. So, it's just one of those things where it's like if you could combine the Texans edge rush with the Titans defensive tackle room, you'd probably have the best unit in the entire league. But I think both of those spots are lacking for both of those teams, and they're just like kind of the exact mirror opposites of each other. Where the Titans are really good interior, but the edge rush itself is kind of what's holding that room back. Whereas the Texans, it's really the edge rush that is so fearsome, but that defensive tackle room is kind of holding them back. And I think Indy kind of has the best of both worlds. I think they have elite level talent at all spots, and then they have depth as well, which I think really kind of helps them. Linebacker room. This is another pretty tough one. Um, this is probably going to ruffle some feathers here, but I'm actually going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars with the best linebacker room. Um, I oh, I cut out, but I really like Devin Lloyd there, another young guy. I think the Aluakon, however you pronounce his name, I think that move was really underrated last year. He's super super talented. Um, You got Chad Muma as well, who they drafted. Um, Another talented player. I think that line, or I think the linebacker room in general has some really good depth to it, and they have a chance to be a really really strong unit for that team. Um, Next, this is a this is a tough room, man. The linebackers are tough. Um, I'm gonna put the Colts here. I'm gonna put the Colts in this spot. Um, I'm still kind of worried about the depth, but I think Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed, um, both of those guys are. I mean, we know how good Zaire Franklin is. This one of the better run stopping linebackers in football, and then EJ Speed, what he can do in the passing game and his athleticism, and um, Yeah, they just need that second, you know, that second group of guys really to take the next step. And next, I'm going to put the Texans here. Um, Obviously, having they signed Aziz Al Shair, who who's going to be a big addition to that room. That was a real weak spot for them last year, so I think he's definitely going to help. But I just don't think it's going to be, it can't just be him. But I think they also too, like, if I'm not mistaken, they have Christian Harris as well, who's a pretty decent player, and young guy, the Henry Toto guy. He's pretty good. So yeah, that's and then we'll go to the Tennessee Titans last, uh, who lost Aziz Al-Shaair. Um, so kind of that kind of takes the punch, because I mean he was their best linebacker last year, and now he's gone. So like they're going to be rolling out Kenneth Murray Jr., who has not played that great, and Jack Gibbons, who nobody really knows a lot about. So that their linebacker room is really, 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 really bad, and it seems like it's been that way for a while. So now let's get into the safeties here. Um, Man, this is a tough one. I'm actually going to put the Titans up here just because, they've got Amani Hooker and Elijah Molden. So they're both really, really good players. Um, Not great depth, but I don't think really like anybody has great depth in the safety room. And then um, I would probably put the Texans up here. I know she don't have cornerback here listed as well. So,
I added in.
and then obviously getting Jimmy Ward there. Jalen Petrie is a really good player. Um, I think he has a chance to be one of the better safeties in the league, especially with his talent level. But then I think they have some decent depth too. Like Lonnie Johnson there is pretty decent, and so let's go. This is where it kind of gets interesting here. Um, I'm gonna say I'd probably put the Colts after this, just because of Julian Blackman re-signing. Um, Outside of Julian Blackman, it's kind of like a like you don't really feel great about it. Because we don't know anything about Nick Cross. Nobody, he hasn't
We know
played.
he's a dog.
Yeah, like no, he hasn't played. Nobody knows. Um, they drafted some guys late, but it wasn't like a top tier pick. Um, I mean, yeah, it's just kind of a rough room. And then I'd probably put the Jaguars second. That's a really rough room for them. I mean, really, they have Andre Cisco, who's not like terrible, but it's not great either. It's not a great room. Um, let's go move up now instead of going down. Let's go to cornerback. Um, First, I'm gonna put the Tennessee Titans here as well at first. Um, Signing Chidobe Awuzie, who's a really, really good player, really underrated player. Obviously, the L'Jarius Sneed trade went through. That's a massive deal for them. Um, but really, not only that, but I'm trying to pull up all the depth charts here while we're doing this as
Yeah,
well.
you good. Okay.
But Roger McCreary as well. McCreary, is a really talented player there who can play in the slot. I think that's a really really solid trio for them. Um, and then they also have Arden Key, who should be a decent player as well. So they really have four guys that you feel really good about. Um, Next, I'm going to put the Texans up here. I think the Texans, you know, we already know Stingley, like, dude's a dog. Um, Really, really good player. Um, but really, even outside of him, they went and got Jeff Okuda as well. Really, another really decent player. And C.J. Henderson, they drafted Kamari Lassiter. I think that's a that's a strong group for them.
Amen.
Um, Next, I'll probably put the Colts here uh, as well. Just almost solely, Kenny Moore to me is like the best slot in football. But then you do have some really talented pieces. Well, I wouldn't say really talented. You got Juju Brents on the outside. He's really talented. Um, but we have to see him actually play and play at a high level. And really, outside of him, it's just kind of like a who's who, like who's going to emerge. And there's just not really great at, like, is it Jalen Jones? Is it um, Dallas Flowers? Is he going to recover from the Achilles, which is a tough injury for a DB to come back from? But he looks like he's doing good. So I mean, like, who really emerges in that room? But I think overall, it's just not like super talented. I still think they're missing. I think like the cornerback and safety is like clearly the deepest, or like not the deepest, but like the worst, the worst spot on the roster. Like, I'm extremely concerned about the secondary because really outside of Blackman and Kenny Moore, it's a bunch of unknown. Like, none of these guys have played at a high level before. And second, I'd probably put the Jaguars up here in last. I think they have one of the worst secondaries in football. It's going to be really tough for them going into the season, but they they have some decent name. I mean, Ronald Darby is not like terrible, but I think he's more of like an inside guy who might play on the outside. So we'll see how that goes. Coaching, this one's tough because
Better
you don't
watch
want
it.
to. Yeah, well, I mean, like, you don't want to discount Doug Peterson because he's won a Super Bowl. Like, he's reached the pinnacle as a head coach, and like that carries a lot of weight. And he's really kind of going into now his third year and with the Jaguars, and he's really kind of transformed the mess that Urban Meyer left there in his wake, which we won't revisit that, but it was a disaster. And so he's kind of turned it around, and really, like, he won a division his first year there. They almost won the division last year if it wasn't for Trevor Lawrence's injury. So he could be like 2 for 2 in his first 2 years in the division if things broke right as far as health goes. So you really don't want to discount what he done. So I'll actually put Doug Peterson at the top right now, just because he's a guy with a proven track record. He's he's done it at the highest level. He's won a Super Bowl, um, and he's taken the Jaguars in his first 2 years into contention for the division and even winning a division, which is what it's all about. And everybody else is kind of still young and unknown. They haven't been there long enough, to know. Um, Second one is kind of a or a coin toss. It just kind of depends on what your flavor is. I want to put Shane Steichen up there, um, just because I think the offensive minded coaches, especially at the head coach position, is just so important in today's league. Where I think him and D'Amico Ryans are probably right there with each other. I think D'Amico Ryans is a fantastic head coach, but he's just more of like more of the defensive side of the ball. Whereas, like, if they lose their offensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryans is having to replace his offensive coordinator. And at that point, you would rather have the offensive guy leading your team because no matter who leaves, Shane Steichen is going to be the play caller. He's going to be the guy installing the offense. You're going to get consistent. Really surround your rookie, or well, not a rookie anymore, but your young quarterback with that type of tutelage, and I think that's really important in this league today. But I would put D'Amico Ryan second, um, and then obviously, Callahan we're going to put forward just because he's never coaching a game. We don't know. I mean, he be the best coach of all time? Nobody knows. He's never coached a game, so by proxy, he's going to have to be be last. But I think he has a strong track record. I mean, I think he's a really smart guy. Um, Goes back to the offensive minded guys. They're kind of surrounding Will Levis and their young quarterback with that offensive minded head coach to kind of propel him. So I think overall, this is kind of where you're landing. This is my take on the AFC South right now.
Hey man, it's not a bad take. I ain't gonna lie. There was a few ones I was like, hey, but you make good compelling points. So none of this can get you a stone thrown at you or anything like that. Like I said, it's your opinion. This is why we ask. And you have a very intelligent opinion as well. So we do appreciate you and shout out to you. Appreciate you for being patient with me. Like I didn't know I had to keep dragging these pictures and then I had to remake the list because I made it yesterday, but it didn't save. So that kind of bothered me while I was doing that, but it's okay. Now I have to do it all over again. Thanks. Way to go. Did that just bother me?
Now it's your
Absolutely.
turn.
Oh, I'm so mad. But let's start it over. So I'm gonna go. I don't know why I just did that. That just made me so mad. It just bothered me to the core. The whole list just deleted. But it's okay. Um, so I'm going to just give off my list and then I have a screenshot for you guys. You have to follow me on Twitter. So at the beginning, of course, we had quarterback. At quarterback position, I'm going to go with the Houston Texans. I think the Houston Texans do have the best QB in the division right now. Um, it's not by a landslide. I think it's 1A, 1B. So I definitely do think, Stroud is that guy right as of right now because he has done it and he just makes everything look so easy. And that's not a lot, especially for a rookie. It was kind of like he had that wow factor when just watching him play. So he did make it look easy. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and making him QB1. Um, for the second one, I'm going to give it to Anthony Richardson. It's not me being biased. I just think because he's a dual threat, he's just that dog. And I did see the potential in him when he was on the field. How he made everything look easy. And if you would have asked RQB to do what he did last year, a season ago or a year before, it wouldn't have been done. So I do think he brings that upper echelon type ability to the offense, especially with a mastermind like Shane Steichen. It's things you love to see. So um, I'm going to give it to Anthony Richardson as the second person. So definitely for sure going to give it to him. The third spot, I'm going to give it to Trevor Lawrence as well. I love Trevor Lawrence. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's okay. Trevor Lawrence is probably, and it's not even a far debate. I think it's 1A, 1B, 1C. Because I do think all of these guys could be, the guy to lead the division. So I'm going to give it to Trevor Lawrence to be the third best quarterback. I do think if healthy, he is the best quarterback. I'll take him over Stroud if he is healthy. Because I mean, watching him last year, even when he played us, there were so many balls thrown. The ball placement was just insane. I thought it was intercepted, but it just landed into the receiver's hands plenty of times. I was like, how did he do that? So, I mean, Stroud still has the intangibles of being the best QB in the division, but as of right now, I'm going to go for him to be third. And then for fourth, I'm going to give it to, of course, Will Levis. This is no shame to Will Levis. I do think he has the ability to be good, but unfortunately, just due to the team that he's on, with the protection he has, I don't think he can ever hit that level. I do think he can take a step up next year, but I just think he needs more protection and more of a team to build around him. Of course, it's going to take time. I just think it's going to take longer than what the other quarterbacks in the division are going to have. So, of course, that is the tier list for now for the quarterback position. So it's Stroud, then it's Richardson, Lawrence, and then you have Levis. So that's my QB list. Running back list, of course, I'm gonna go with the Colts. Jonathan Taylor by a landslide. He is that dog. Still one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best, top three and not three. I'm gonna give it to the Colts to win this running back room. I just think even with Zach Moss gone, like bringing Jonathan Taylor back, and I'm even adding Richardson in the rushing department because I know he's gonna be running the football. So I'm putting him in there as well. I just think the running back room is going to be very good for the Colts. You guys know how much I love Sermon, so that's going to be me as well on that list. I do think the Colts have the best running back room in the division. For second place, the I'm going to give it to the Houston Texans. I think I'll take the Texans over the Titans, just because I have the Titans at third. I'm going to add them now, and I'm going to tell you why. I think the Titans are more of a receiving back room, even though they just added Pollard, but I think a lot of those guys, I think they're going to have a more pass-oriented offense going into next season, from my opinion personally. So I will give the Texans the nod over the Titans when it comes to running the football. So I mean, it is what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. But I do think even when you look at the Jaguars as last, Etienne, hopefully he bounces back from last year. Last year it wasn't really great for Etienne. There was a few games he just like fumbled the ball away, and couldn't really catch the ball either. So hopefully he can fix himself. He is with his quarterback with Lawrence, so hopefully he can fix it. But I do think Titans do have a nice room. I just don't think it's better than Houston's going into next season, because they do have a nice system in hand moving forward. Like I said, all they need is protection and time. So it is what it is. But again, the Colts do have the best running back room in the division. So that's going to be one for them. Moving on to the wide receiver department. Again, this could go either way because all of these wide receiver rooms in the division is pretty good. So for first, I'm going to give it to the Houston Texans. Why? Because of CJ Stroud and their wide receiver room just adding Diggs plus Nico Collins, what they got, they can make a lot happen just off of pure QB ability. So I'm going to give it to the Houston Texans to win the wide receiver room. Um, it is what it is, but just looking at it on paper, they do have probably the most production out of all the names in the division. I'm going to give it to the Houston Texans. Number two, I'm going to give it to the Indianapolis Colts. They just paid Michael Pittman Jr. that money. They got Richardson coming back, and they just got AD. You got Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, and this room has a lot of production that can come out of it. Like, of course, having a guy like Shane Steichen who can get people open, just having natural ability as well to go with it is going to be what gets it done. So I do think um, the Colts had the potential to be number one wide receiver room. But like I said, having them or Houston Texans is going to be like 1A, 1B for me. For third, I'm going to give it to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and fourth, I'm going to give the Tennessee Titans, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So that's my wide receiver room. Moving on to the tight end room. Of course, I'm going to go with the Colts first. I do think they have the most upside out of all the tight end rooms going into this division. So, like I said, one person can do pretty much everything. Each person has a specific trait, and I think that's pretty good to have as a core. But I think, like we just mentioned, Jelani Woods can be the guy out of all of them when you look at the wide receiver rooms. So I mean the tight end rooms. So I do think Jelani Woods can have the best upside out of all the tight ends. For second, I'm going to give it to the Houston Texans. Like I said, pure QB ability can get guys open, so they can just pretty much do whatever they want. Third, I'm going to give it to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Evan Ingram had a good year last year. Can it carry over to this season? Not so sure. But I'm not really sold on that room for the Jacksonville Jaguars, so I'm going to give them the third spot. Fourth, I'm going to give it to the Tennessee Titans. Unfortunately, do not kill me, but it is what it is. You guys got a lot of work to do. Moving over to the offensive line. We have to give the first to the Indianapolis Colts because they just are that good. This is a team we watch on a week to week basis. So I think we know this team more than anyone else. Especially when you look at the roster with Quentin Nelson and all those guys. Bernard Ryman took a huge step up last season. So I definitely love seeing that. And then you got the guys coming back with Ryan Kelly. I think we just have more proven experience on that line compared to everyone else. Um, so I definitely give them the first spot. Second spot, I'm going to give to the Houston Texans. Of course, they were banged up last year, but just to see what Stroud did with the protection he had, just expect what he can do with the protection. He had no protection last season and still was able to win the division and to win the playoff game. So it was very, it was something to watch. Just to be like, wow, like what would he do if he had protection? He'll probably be the best quarterback in the NFL. Um, that's just my opinion personally. But I do think the Houston Texans probably have the second best offensive line. Third, I'm going to give it to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence and that offensive line is sneaky underrated, honestly. But like I said, they still do need a few pieces, probably in the interior. But on the outside, they pretty much got it beat. So that's going to be my pick for third. And then last, of course, is the Tennessee Titans. I didn't see any protection at all last year. For Will Levis, I didn't see them make any big improvements going into this season. So that's going to be my pick um, for the last spot for the offensive line. Defensive line. Uh, to start off, defensive line, I think I'm going to go Jacksonville here. I think Jacksonville always had a good defensive line, in my opinion. They always gave us fits. I think they give every team in the division fits, no matter who they match up with. So I always would pick Jacksonville, no matter who's on the roster or who isn't. They made some moves in the offseason. They always do when it comes to getting pass rush. So I do think they probably have the best defensive line in the division. Um, so definitely is my number one. You might not like it, but I do think, I mean, you can't go wrong with any of them. So second, I'm going to go Indianapolis Colts. They was missing Latu last year. I think Latu's bringing that extra ability that we didn't have. Of course, we took a step up with the pieces we got in the last year's offseason. So adding Latu to it just takes it up a notch, and I'm just gonna give us that edge as probably the second best. So it's like 1A, 1B for me when it comes to Jacksonville and the Colts um, for defensive line. So yeah, I'm gonna go 1A, 1B, Jacksonville, then Colts, and then third, I'm gonna go, of course, Houston Texans. Houston Texans on paper probably has a sneaky good defensive line, so I'm gonna give them the edge as well. And then last, of course, is the Tennessee Titans. Unfortunately, like I said, they still got one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL, but I think he needs a little bit more help to go with that. So moving on from the defensive line, let's go to the linebacker core. Now, of course, we've heard Landon's pick when it comes to the linebacker room, but I'm going to give the nod to the Colts. Of course, they do not have a zone coverage linebacker, but they still happen to have the best linebacker in the league, in my opinion. No offense, Fred Warner. You're on the opposite side, though, but this is division talk. So I'm going to give it to the Indianapolis Colts for the best linebacker room just because Zaire Franklin is that guy. And we're going to see him week one, how much of a guy he is. He's going to continue to go on that hot streak, started from special teams, and now he's here. Captain, dog, EJ Speed, dog. And, the rest of the room, they have unproven potential as well, but I think they can take a step up. So I love it when you can have a guy like EJ and Zaire to lead that room. And then you can just pair off of that. So it all comes down to Gus Bradley and what he got cooking with his linebackers group. So I still would give the nod to the Colts to have the best room in the division. Second, I'm going to give it to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They got some dogs over there in Jacksonville with that defensive line. Their defense is always probably the best thing on that team, regardless of the situation. Besides Trevor Lawrence, of course. Third, I'm going to give it to the Houston Texans, and last, I'm going to give it to the Tennessee Titans. Titans, get your stuff together. It's going to take some time. It's okay. We get it. After that, we're going to go to the cornerback room. Now, the cornerback room is very interesting. Why? Because I think a lot of these rooms have potential to be really good, and I think there's just one team out of the division that has the best room. In my opinion, the best corner room is the Houston Texans. I love their corner room. They took a lot of pieces that didn't work in other systems and just paired it with theirs with a defensive minded coach. So all they're expecting is greatness at this point. So I'm gonna go with the Houston Texans as the best CB room. Um, and the second best CB room is going to be the Indianapolis Colts, of course. Just pairing them to what the other teams have, I think the Colts definitely has an upside. I think I've seen enough of Juju Brent. He's battle tested a lot of good wide receivers last year when he was playing, and I think he held his own in a lot of those games. Of course, he got cooked on a few of those, but there's a lot of plays like, for instance, his debut was against the Baltimore Ravens, and he came out and made his presence felt. Um, and I think Kenny Moore being the captain in the nickel, uh, pairing him with Juju, and then you got Jones. I think this room has potential to be really good. I really do. It's not better than Houston's, but I think the potential is there. So I'm going to put them second. Third, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars, just because they're a defensive team. And last is the Tennessee Titans. Unfortunately, I am sorry, Titans fans, but it's going to be okay. Safety room. This is where it gets interesting. Safety room. I'm going to be biased again. I'm sorry, but I think the Texans have the best safety room in the division. I just love Petrie's game, like, and Stingley Jr. as well. It's like you can't go wrong with that. You just can't. You can't go wrong with Stingley at corner and then having Petrie on the backside. It's like yin and yang for me. So the best safety room is definitely the Houston Texans in my opinion. And it's not by a landslide because it's not saying much. It's because, like Landon mentioned earlier, it's not a lot of depth in any of these rooms. But I just think when you look at the best safety in the AFC South, it's probably going to be Petrie in my opinion. This is my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. So the best safety room is definitely the Houston Texans. Second best, I'm going to go with the Colts. Why would I go with the Colts? Let me tell you why. I think if Julian Blackman never got injured last year, he probably would have had the best season of his career. And that's saying a lot because he was balling. He was balling out. Of course, it got cut short, but I think he was on the path of really, like, when he was gone, he was missed. Like his presence was felt, and that says a lot. So I do think Blackman can come back and just for sure have that impact that he was having for sure before he got hurt. I know they got Snead, but I mean I don't think Snead's gonna for sure have that impact like he had in Kansas City. He is still a really good corner, but he got to go up against the Colts, man. I'm sorry, he got to go up against. I'm putting my fan cap on when it comes to that situation. Um, the third best safety room. I'm gonna put the Titans. I'm gonna put the Titans as third, and then the Jaguars at fourth when it comes to safety. And then when it comes to coaching at last, this is where it gets good. Coaching. The best coach in the AFC South is Shane Steichen. It is. I'm sorry. This is 1A, 1B, by the way. But I do think Shane Steichen's the best coach in the AFC South. Um, he was a dog last year. In his rookie year, he led the Colts to 9 wins. When was the last time we had 9 wins? I'll let you guys. Don't worry, I'll wait. I'll let you guys answer that for yourselves. But this team, with what we had going through the season before, it's just it was incredible to watch. I felt like the Colts had a chance to win every game last year just because of the head coaching and his ability. He's just a mastermind, and it's something the Colts is just it's what the Colts is missing. So we appreciate you, Jeff Saturday. Thank you for all your time, but it's Shane time now. He's the goat, and I have him as the best coach in the AFC South. Second best, I'm gonna go Houston. Houston was incredible last year. They were incredible last year, and when they got him as the head coach last year for Houston, I was like, I don't know, give him 2 seasons. But he was ahead of the schedule, man. He had this team locked in, ready to win the Super Bowl in Stroud's rookie year, and that says a lot. So I definitely got to give DeMarco his flowers for his coaching ability, and I think it's only up from here as the head coach. Third, I'm gonna go Jacksonville, and last, I'm gonna go Tennessee. It's not to say much about Tennessee, but I do think when you look at this division and the AFC South in general, all of these teams have potential to be good. All of these teams. So it's not nothing wrong with the list of what you have. But like I said, the Houston Texans and the Colts, they probably have the most potential if you look at this list, or me or Landon's list. They have the most potential to be good for a consecutive amount of years. But Landon, what's your thoughts on my list? Did I say anything wrong?
Yeah, just you had the Titans had the worst cornerback room.
Yeah, in my opinion. Even though they got Snead.
Well, that's more than just Snead, man. Like Awuzi's really he's a really good player. Like that's I I don't see how they're worse. They're definitely better than the Colts, like easily. Like I mean, I like if you want to do like Stingley, I get that. But I mean, I think
I love Snead.
Snead, Awuzie, and McCreary. I mean, like that. The, not even just the AFC South. That might be one of like the most talented, better trios in like the entire NFL. Much
Hmm.
less, the AFC South. So yeah, I would definitely probably swap that around. I don't see how they're worse than the Colts at all, or the Jaguars.
It's good. It's good. I
So
sound
that
like
would
I
be the
love
only
the
thing.
Texans. Oh, come on, man. Don't do that to me. I'm
That'd
not
be the
sounding
only
like
thing I
I love
really
the
have
Texans.
like
I
an
just
issue
think they're
with.
really good.
You think who's good?
The Texans, he said I was giving too much love to the
Oh,
Texans. It'll be okay.
I mean, they're a good team.
Hey, man, if you're good, you're good, man. I'm like I said, I literally just picked Colts over a few positions that a lot of people would look at me crazy. That should show you how much I love the Colts. But it is what it is. Everybody has their thoughts and opinions. But you guys, appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. The screenshots will be posted on Twitter later or tomorrow, but you have to follow us to find that out. And the links are in the descriptions. But we appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is Landon. This is Culture Shock. Anything else you got to say before we get up out of here?
Nah, just ready for camp, man. OTA start next week, so we actually get offense versus defense. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. I'm excited to see healthy Richardson and all these guys go next week in OTAs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Amen. Amen. But we appreciate you guys for tuning in as well. Hit the like button, subscribe. We will be back in the future, but you have to turn on your notifications to know when we do that. But we appreciate you again. Landon, this is Culture Shock. You guys have a good night and have a good weekend as well. Hey, Hustle Man, we appreciate you for tuning in, man. Really do.